Can we start in about 2 minutes? We read, Musna? Okay, great stuff. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, Minister and Deputy Minister, and colleagues from DVE. My name is Elijah Mhlanga. We're not going to waste time. We're already about 5 minutes late. So, and there's a lengthy statement there for the Minister to go through. So I'm just going to ask her right away to come and address us. Thank you very much, Minister.
No, thank you very much, Elijah. Let me also acknowledge my colleague, the Deputy Minister, senior managers from the department, but most important also members of the media. Firstly, let me announce that, or remind people that October is the Teachers' Month, and then on the 5th of October, it will be Teachers International Day, celebrating Teachers' Day under the theme, the teachers we need for the education we want, the global imperative to reverse the teacher shortage. Indeed, it's a day which has been established or declared by ILO and UNESCO, and as a country we will be joining the world to celebrate our teachers, and we are very cognizant of the fact that teachers, especially our teachers in the country, work under extremely difficult circumstances, and they are the center that holds the system together. So in the midst of the lack of other educational resources, our teachers continue to remain the only available and most critical resource. So as a country, we have declared the entire October as the Teachers' Month, but as part of our teacher appreciation program, we always have what we call Teachers' Awards that start from districts, provinces, nationally, to celebrate our teachers. So this year, on the 5th of October, as the department will host the National Teaching Awards at the Hartfeld Arena here in Pretoria, and these awards will honor teachers who have demonstrated exceptional performance and commitment in the different areas of their work. Although there will be a few of these teachers, but we know we have multitudes of exceptionally good teachers, and these awards are just our humble way of saying we want to thank you. But also we can proudly announce the fact that this year again, as the country, we were invited to serve on the high-level panel on the transformation of education, which really was about mainly, it's not even transformation, it was part of, the panel was on teacher development, and it's part of the Transforming Education Summit. Because in the summit, the area of teachers was really not well represented. As a result, the Secretary General did set up a panel to look on issues of teachers to complement the resolutions of the Transforming Education Summit. Because we know that as a world, the devastating effects of COVID-19 has put many countries at risk, not achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And in responding to this challenge, the United Nations Secretary General convened a summit of heads of states in the UN headquarters in 2022, where countries in the world had to pledge on making available resources to transform their education system in a manner that addresses, amongst others, challenges with shortages of qualified teachers, lack of access to quality education resources, and also to address disruptions which happen to schooling because of pandemic, of wars, natural disasters, and other effects of climate change. So post the summit, the UN Secretary General decided to put together a panel of education experts to help advise him on issues that relate to teachers' development. And the panel was headed by two former presidents, former President Ms. Paula Weckers from Trinidad and Tobago, but there was also the former President of Estonia, Ms. Kersti Kaljudi, and amongst others, he had four ministers. It was Minister Motshekga from South Africa, it was a minister from Argentina, from Romania, and also from the Republic of Indonesia. And the panel included also renowned authors and researchers, education experts, and also leaders from ILO. Amongst others, the panel had to look at the following themes of enabling transformation of the teaching profession, investing in teachers, promoting equity, diversity, and inclusion, elevating the status and dignity of the teaching profession, improving quality and fostering innovation teaching through training and lifelong learning, fostering humanity and teaching through decent work, developing leadership in teaching, advancing human-centered education technology, and transforming teaching through a new social contract. And there were a number of recommendations that have come through, and we will post the recommendations that came from this panel. And as a country, we did make a commitment that we'll popularize these mechanisms, but also commit ourselves as a country that we will work hard to continue to implement these resolutions. And I think as part of our teacher celebrations, we do want to remind young people and people aspiring to be teachers to apply for the Funza Lushaka bursary, which opens next week. It targets young people below the age of 30 that have passed matric or have grade 12 with a bachelor pass and who meet the requirements for entry to university. The process of recruitment is underway, and we want to remind our young people that applications for this bursary are aligned to applications in universities, because you can't be awarded a bursary if you've not had an admission. Again, on our website, there's more information on that. So besides the fact that we wanted to highlight our Teachers' Day, I thought I should take this opportunity to just say a few things about some of the areas of our work which we think it's important to really announce. Today, we have 30 days left before the national senior exams for 2023. We have registered more than 723,000 learners. We will be sitting at 6,800 centers, and the examination is going to start on the 30th of October and will conclude on the 5th of December. Once again, we urge parents, guardians, and caregivers and the community as a whole to support the grade 12 learners who will be writing their final exams. And as a sector, we have done our best to prepare the system. We now need to work together to ensure that our learners are equally prepared and ready for the examinations. But we also thought we should update the public about what we think has become a trend of what we regard as unusual behavior in schools, especially in provinces of KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, Western Cape, and Gauteng, where there have been increasing reports of unusual behavior among learners, leading to high emotional outbursts and physical harmful practices. And we are not sure about the exact reasons for this, and as such, we are going to establish a commission to guide us. Because whilst as a department, we have established policies that address code of conduct to address issues related to behavior of pupils, but there are also issues that we think need us to pay more attention to, and are calling for our committees to really help support our children and help identify causes of the emotional instability or emotional distress in good time. I have Advocate Misa who's here, but the only thing I want to say that as the Department of Basic Education, we welcome the adoption of the Basic Education Law Amendments Bill by the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education, and this important bill has been in the process for almost 10 years. I was saying to the President, it took us 3 terms, because I instituted when I in my first term as the minister in 2023, and in 2013, now it's 2023. And the aim of the bill is to bring certain technical and substantive adjustments to the South African Act and Employment of Educationals Act. Because this bill helps to help us clarify certain existing provisions and to insert certain provisions to cover matters which are not provided for in the existing legislation, like your ECD. And some of the amendments are about as a result of court cases as in issues of admissions where we've been losing cases because the law does not help us to insist on schools admitting learners because the powers were given to SGBs. So those are the things that we're trying to address. And again, we also acknowledge that the education landscape has changed dramatically, and therefore there's been a need for us to really change our laws, align our laws. And the BELA bill is mainly not a curriculum bill. It's about management and administration of the system. We have other pieces of legislation dealing with other matters of the sector, like curriculum. Infrastructure is not dealt under the BELA bill. So those are the things that we thought we will highlight, but Advocate Misa is here. If there's clarity required, it's there. The other issue, again, with Dr. Mbude that we have appointed to come into the National Department to help us on our reading and literacy strategy. Because if you recall, when we got the PILS report, I did make an undertaking that I will keep on updating the nation about the work that we are doing, first to analyze the bill, but secondly, to make sure that we are in line with the recommendations that come from the bill. So again, we'll be saying more about what we are doing, what the recommendations are, and what we need to do. And lastly, I also wanted, again, to highlight the fact that we have already accepted or we have already integrated the ECD program. It's a big challenge, but it's a very exciting program, and we are busy streamlining the registration requirements. We're looking at changing the model, but improving the model and making sure that more children get access into the center. We've done about 3 research pieces which are guiding the work that we do in the sector. And again, another matter of interest has been the school infrastructure, especially on the SAFE program, that we want to report that we are confident as a sector that our annual performance plan is on target as the budget allocated, and we are very sure that by the end of 31st March 2024, we will have dealt with all the matters or with all the infrastructure plans that we have. At the moment, 2,871 schools have been provided with sanitation, and the 511 schools that are at various stages will be completed by March. And the last one, which is exciting but also, I think, depressing, is the fact that the 30th of September was the last date for our PYE, which is your Presidential Youth Employment Initiative, and the phase 4, or the phase 4, which began in February, ended up now. And up to now, through PYE, we have already provided 1.1 million job opportunities. Different centers have trained a number of these young people, have been able to attract young girls in particular. But what has also been exciting about the program, we've had an opportunity to provide training for different people. And because Elijah said it's a lengthy statement, and he was not keen that I report on everything. So I said, before the end of the year, we'll have to come back and update the nation on issues of admissions and other matters that we're not able to address now. Because today we really wanted to focus on the Teachers' Month and encourage people, including the media, to say, shout out to your teacher. So I must tell my former students that I'm expecting calls. If I was a teacher that they can remember, they must shout out to their teachers and say, thank you, teacher, for really having part of my life. And we'll like really between today and the 4th, on the 5th, to have as many people as possible contacting, sending cards. It's much more easier. You can create a card on your phone, send to your teacher and say, teacher, thank you very much for having been part of my life. If you can, send them roses. If you can, send them pieces of chocolate. But more than anything, just shout out and say, thank you, teacher, as part of our Teachers' Day celebration. I thank you very much.
Not at all, Minister, not at all. Thank you very much, Minister. Yeah. I think we can go straight to questions. It's a very hot day today, so we don't want to be in this room for a very long time. Heidi, I'll start with you.
I'm the only one. Anyway, it's Heidi Jockas from ENCA. I just want to ask about the challenges in many communities, especially in Gauteng, about the water. A lot of the schools have indicated that they actually can't function because of the water challenges in the province. If you could just give an update on how that was managed and how many schools were actually affected. And then also in the Western Cape with the storms, what was done about that to help schools and pupils as well, and how many schools were affected. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm ending also waiting.
Yes, sir.
The first question goes to in terms of the kids, the national senior certificate exams. Previously we've had that papers were linking and everything. Is the department assuring citizens that this year no paper will link, or what will happen if a paper leaks? And then the second question goes to, again, in terms of PYE. What happens after a candidate has completed the program? Do they have any opportunity that you give them to continue further? Because I understand that you provide them with basic knowledge on education. So what happens after that?
All right. Thank you so much for those questions. There are no more questions. Minister, please attend to the questions.
On the question of water, it's a major problem because schools, unlike homes, we have up to 1,000 people congregating at the same place at the same time. So if there's no water at a school, it's a major crisis, especially on sanitation, but also on drinking. So what schools have been doing, especially in the Western Cape, where they've been able to bring learners and sanitation is not functioning well, is to keep them for certain hours and give them work so that they really don't find themselves odd. Because as I say, some schools are big. You have 1,000 people at the same place, and it means you can't use your ablution blocks. In Gauteng, unless Elijah, you are aware, I've not received the report from Gauteng. The only report we have is from the Western Cape, which has been updating us about how many schools have not been able to return. What is it that they've done in return? Something like going back to your COVID plans where you feed from 5, you can, but you send work to learners so that they are kept engaged and there's ongoing communication between the learners and the schools and between the teachers. And so the only updated information we have is from the Western Cape. In Gauteng, I've just not heard the report, and I was worried this morning to hear that there's going to be lots of water shortages in Gauteng this week. And as I say, normally the response is not to keep kids for the whole day at school because it can be a health hazard if you don't have enough. So you can tank, but you can't tank for especially if you have a waterborne system like we have in Gauteng. So I still don't have a full report. I'll ask from the communication. On paper leaks, it's one of our major concern. And what we do on an ongoing basis is to audit, because it's the provinces that are the ones that store and distribute papers. And normally leaks will happen at that point between the provinces and the school. But I don't see Dr. Polio, but we put in place lots of safety measures to make sure that we can protect the sector. Because unfortunately, the NSC is a national paper. And now with technology, it really wreaks havoc. A paper can be leaked in the Free State, it's going to reach Limpopo, it's going to reach Natal, it's going to reach cousins elsewhere in Northern Cape, and becomes difficult to manage. But I can assure you that we do pay lots of attention to make sure that we curb any leak, because it is a big headache for us if it happens. And in the event of the leak, depending what has happened, what would have happened, it's to investigate the source of the leak, and sometimes to investigate if indeed what is said to be the leaked paper is a leak, because there are lots of hoaxes when people sell kids' papers to say, deposit 5,000, we'll give you an exam paper, and to find that it's not even a part of the exam. So there's also lots of engagements we do with young people. Don't allow yourself to be really dragged into any wrongdoing, but also make sure that you are not scammed in the process. But again, we do lots of work around it. About training opportunities for your PYEs, the PYEs are trained in different areas, because others are in libraries, then they're trained as librarians. But the intention is not to keep them, because some of them initially came as your sanitizers to help us with COVID management. But from there, gradually, we've been directing them into areas of our work, like library services, like reading, like social. As young people, just engaging with young people about social issues to make sure that they become counselors, mentors. But some have been directed into administration and management. Some have gone into ICTs. And I'm told almost half of them sometimes don't return because they would have had enough skills and exposures in government and find jobs elsewhere. And we are able to take a new set of learners. So very few always come back, because some of the training helps them to be able to get qualifications or some portable certificate that makes them employable elsewhere. Some will be young people that we have trained in maintenance and painting, so we'll work with the sitters to get them to train them for them to be able to repair schools. Some have been themselves artisans that have not had any training opportunities after their training. So after coming there, then they're able to get points which give them certifications. So there's a series of training opportunities that we have, and the destination is not the same. Some of them are teachers that have qualified, have not had posts when they qualified at school. And just by being exposed in the system, they're able to identify areas where they can apply, but also they have an opportunity to even sharpen their teaching skills and are able to find jobs even within the sector. So it will have been different people, young people that have come through the system. And I can assure you that young people who've done well in school, some schools even keep them at their own cost. Because we're finishing the first phase now in September, some provinces like Gauteng are going to keep some of the learners, young PYEs, at their cost until the next round comes, because they need their skills. And some of them, we've given them bursaries. Some have just been, what I love most also, we're told quite a number of them end up falling in love with teaching and beginning to apply for teacher bursaries, or some have got degrees in BSc, end up doing a teaching course for a teacher's diploma. So it's been quite a number of them. So I think as part of the next briefing, we could brief on what would have happened in PYE, because I do want to do a briefing on school readiness, on infrastructure. We can include PYE also to give you a full report about how the program has been shaping. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister. Maybe also allow me, Minister, to say that one of the benefits of the PYEI was to organize young people who are looking for employment opportunities via the SA Youth MOBI database, but also to organize our partners that have become available to assist our young people with accessing job opportunities. So what the candidates who have been in the PYEI need to do now is to update their profiles on the sayouth.mobi website, which does not require any data. So if you update your profile there, then the partners that we are working with are able to find you and offer you employment. Of course, the training that you would have obtained from the project will also give you a good opportunity to be employed. That's the first one. The second thing that I would like to just add on, Minister, is the issue of the damaged schools in the Western Cape. The colleagues in the Western Cape were listening to the question which the colleagues were asking, so they sent information, which is the latest, indicating that by Friday it was only 13 schools which were closed due to damage to the actual schools. The other schools were affected due to damaged roads. But from the water perspective and also the damage there, the school break, even though it's a week, gives us some time to fix whatever that we need to fix. So I thought Minister needed to add that into the input that you have made. I'm not sure if there are any...
Let me come to add on the leakage before the next question.
Okay.
Leakage.
Okay.
Yeah, before the next question, maybe it might be covered. Yeah. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that leakages as leakages, we haven't heard of leakages for a long time, except one question that maybe they used a service provider who just used his phone to take that one question and send to learners. But where a full paper is leaked, it's a history. It's something that we have not experienced for a long time, which means the security systems of the examinations are tightened in such a way that and our officials in the department are trained and vetted that they must not leak a question paper. But it's only a challenge where they use a service provider for their machines. Then that's when they have an access on a paper, then they take a picture and send. Some of the questions arrive to the learners when the learners are already in the classroom. That's why it takes a bit of a long time to investigate, because the investigation is not done by the Department of Basic Education. We refer these cases to the relevant department. Just like the issue of the PYE, Presidential Youth Employment Initiative. Some of the students are engineers. When they apply to basic education, we find that, there are so many professionals who are not absorbed in their relevant sectors. So they go to their sectors. We refer them to their sectors. Even in our own infrastructure, we give them an opportunity to practice in infrastructure. But as Minister indicated, we'll come up with numbers, because to say today so many have gone to this, so many have gone, we might not be giving the right information. Yeah, I think, thank you.
Thank you so much, DM. Thank you. Let me start with this question here, then I'll come to you in the room. Minister, there's a question from Netwerk 24. He says, Llewellyn Prince, a number of opposition parties and civil society organizations threaten court action against the BELA bill. They say they believe in its current form it is unconstitutional. and that they believe that some of the clauses, particularly on language and admission policies, are an attack on Afrikaans as a language, but on African schools. And then the question is, does the minister have any comment for us regarding this? So that's the question from Lewland Prince on WhatsApp from Cape Town. Let me come to Heidi and then we'll go to Tshepo.
Okay, I just have actually I was going to ask about the BELA bill, but you've covered that. I just want to ask if the minister all supports the calls for all schools to be exempted from load shedding, especially leading up to exams and matric exams specifically. And then, Minister, you spoke about the fact that obviously October is Teachers' Month, and you spoke about how there is a very concerning trend of unusual behavior in schools, and I just want to know what's being done to provide more support for teachers to handle this kind of behavior.
All right, thank you. Tshepo.
Good morning, Minister. Morning, DM. So from Afi here, I just want to find out, linking up to what Heidi asked, the issue of load shedding, especially leading up to CAT that will be written first, I think. If there's ways to mitigate that, to ensure that the exam actually goes smoothly. Will there be another phase of the PYEI, and the plans also around water leading up to the exams, the National Senior Certificate exams? Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. No more, okay, that's fine. Minister, over to you.
Yeah. Let me start because the BELA bill, as I say, has been 10 years in the making. I can take 10 years to talk about the BELA bill. Let me start with the other ones. The PYE, with the financial challenges, we've done our plans, we've aligned, because we constantly align the support we give to schools through PYE in terms of our priorities as the department. So we've done our plans. We're awaiting confirmation from Treasury if that we will continue, but at what level we'll be able to continue. So as you'll be aware that Treasury is still working around the ongoing budget constraints. So we suspect it to be affected, but we don't think it will be completely eradicated. But we have full plans depending as to what is happening. So it ended up yesterday. Other provinces have been able to continue, especially in critical areas that they need to continue with. But as I say, I'd only be able to speak with confidence after end of this month because of all these discussions with Treasury. In terms of antisocial behavior, schools unfortunately are just the cosmos, a small part of what society. So if there's lots of depression in the communities, there's lots of overcrowding, poverty, it does impact on schools. And half the time we are sometimes assisted even by organizations outside the schools, or faith-based organizations or NGOs that work with sectors. So we are working with those bodies, and the disturbing trend has been the trend that we observed recently in Gauteng when children take their own lives because of social difficulties that are there in schools. And we're looking at different, that's why we are commissioning also a study to make sure that we are not working on what we think is happening. There might be something deeper than just the difficulties in communities, the usual youth delinquency, or the ongoing social decadence. So we want to be very sure. That's why we're working with experts to be able to really understand fully what is happening whilst continuing with the programs that we believe have to happen. But it is a concerning issue. On exemptions from load shedding, indeed we're monitoring load shedding in terms of the quality of papers that we write. And I was saying to people, which I said even last year, because it's not the first year that we'll have load shedding exam time, that we are lucky as a sector, we operate during the day. So sunlight is there half the time. So we It's not like hospitals where people will die when ventilators don't function. So we can operate in most instances, even when there are no lights. And papers don't take more. It's a long paper to have a 3-hour paper. Most papers, 3 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. So we're able to really work within the space in terms of when there's going to be load shedding, but we continue to work with the we will work with the Minister of Energy, because last year I had to do lots of work with Minister Pravin, to make sure that we can mitigate against the impacts of load shedding during exam time. But we've also tried to look at it as government, the whole question of exempting schools from load shedding. The problem is that schools, unlike other institutions, are embedded in communities. So they are part of the network. Now to exempt a school in the township or groups, part of the network in that community. So what we've done, especially on boarding schools where you must have electricity to cook because children sleep there, is to assist schools to buy generators. But to go, and we've tried it last year with the Minister of Public Enterprise to say, can you exempt schools? And it did seem a very difficult exercise because of the locations of schools in communities. But if we're not able to do it, especially with boarding schools, it was to use generators. If there's going to be load shedding at the time, we have to write caps. We alert Energy to say, could we please make sure that between these hours, the timetable allows us to go through the 2 hours. So actually the caps paper doesn't take, it's not even a 3-hour paper. It's a 2-hour paper, is it not so? Yeah. So we do work with public enterprise. On network, you can see where it comes from. And it's a very unfortunate historical problem. And I was telling Cabinet that, I've been privileged, Chair. In 1994-95, when we were writing the basic education laws, I was privileged to be part of the committee that was really looking, because it was under Professor Bengu. And then I was appointed to work under the Professor Hunter Commission. And some of the compromises we're making then was in the spirit of CODESA, enabling us to go through the sunset clauses for peace in the country. We're at a stage where we have to say, yes, we've worked together for 20 years or more. It's time that we have to do the right things the right way. You can't have a situation where you say government has to give full access to schooling as law, and then say there's a body which is called the governing body that has the right to decide who gets admitted or not. It can be, right? It can be. Those were powers that were saying, let's agree, what do you want? We want to run our schools, to say, okay, run your schools. What do you want? You want to keep our languages, keep your languages. But we've passed that stage now. That's what we're saying, we have to align to the developments. There is no way, I know for a fact, that you will allow, as a self-respecting government, a school governing body to tell you that this school is only going to be Africans. In the Valley, I went to a school where one learner passed away. They even recruit kids from the Free State to fill in the school so that it remains an African-speaking school. So there's no attack on Africans. They recruit kids as far as Heidelberg to come to the Val to make sure that the schools are. You can't pretend those things are not there. So there's no attack on Africans. It's the protection of every child to have access to education. We've had situations where black kids can't even go to a school in front of their gates because the powers have been given to governing bodies. And I can't do anything. If I force them, as the minister, to say, you shall take this child, the governing body takes me to court to say it's not, you're breaking the law. So I'm really looking forward to us going to the Constitution and say, let's talk as South Africans. What is the right thing for all South Africans? For people to protect their languages against the nation, that's fine. For governing bodies to have powers that they can use to the detriment of other kids, I'm looking forward to the court. It might even because, you know, in these 10 years, we have diluted that BELA bill so much sometimes that I just do feel that this democracy can really be compromised. We have diluted it. And there's been lots of misinterpretations. And I can assure you, any minister who comes in the next 5 years, they have to get another BELA bill. But some of the things that we diluted was part of saying, we've been 10 years in this thing, going up and down. Even some of the people we wrote, your homeschooling group, we wrote the homeschooling act with them. Then they come out and challenge the things that we developed with them. Because it's just very fashionable to oppose government. So, net werk ons wag, maar ons kan, laat ons kantoor toe gaan, ons sal sien wat gebeur daar.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hope. That's a hope, Minister. Thank you so much, Minister. I'm seeing here, Minister, on the DBE YouTube channel, from where many people are watching, there were about 5 successive questions about the same thing, and they are asking if the PYEI will be extended. But I thought you had already addressed that one. But someone forwarded to me, but just to indicate to you that there's huge interest on that matter. So I think you're correct in saying that we need to come back in a few weeks to just indicate what the way forward will be. But we'll also share information. Some provinces are extending until December and others until November. So we'll provide on the website a table of which province is extending until when. But for a comprehensive response in terms of the way forward, we'll request the Minister to come back and update the nation in a not so distant future. Are there any more questions? It looks not. Okay. Let me then take this time to thank you for attending and thank you for covering the media briefing. We really appreciate it. We will keep interacting. We know that after such a statement, it will be dissected and there will be requests for interviews, Minister DM, and those relevant responsibility managers. Please brace yourself for that. Otherwise, thank you very much. Have a great Sunday. Thank you.